Hello, everyone. In lieu of my very lengthy video, and rightfully so, I forgot to say a couple of things in the video. I need to clarify these things as I don't want to cause any confusion. In the previous video, I stated to you that there were times when Chucky used to get sick with headaches and stomach aches. Um, One of the biggest pivotal points in that relationship is when he would have times like that he would get sick. I would always tell him, I need to tell your grandma, right? Let me go get Miss Mary, which her bedroom was right next door to his bedroom. And so there would be times, maybe two or three instances, that he got sick during our relationship. And when I was extremely worried for him, I didn't know, what else to do. Um, there'd be times when I want to like rush out the bedroom and run to Miss Mary's bedroom and say, Miss Mary, help me. Help me with him. Your grandson is sick. I don't know what's going on with him. He's getting these headaches and he's getting these really terrible stomach aches. Help me. Because I knew that she was probably the only person that could convince him to go to the doctor to see about himself. He probably might have still put up a little bit, um, excuse me, of a fight, but Miss Mary could get him to do things to see the error of his ways to kind of be a little more rational, okay? Um, but he would always stop me. So this is heavy. He would always stop me and he would grab my hand off the doorknob and he'd be like, sit down, and I'd be like, what? And he'd be like, sit down. He would always whisper, he'd be like, sit down. And so I sit down on the bed and he would say to me, um, he would say, you cannot tell my grandmother that I've been getting sick. So, when he would talk to me like that, I would kind of be like, what? He'd be like, you can't tell my grandmother that I've been getting sick. And I'd be like, why? So now we're in the bedroom whispering back and forth because we don't want Miss Mary to hear us talking. So he would say, my grandmother is an older woman. This goes back to his line of respect and his loyalty to her to a certain extent. And he would say, my grandmother is an older woman and she's already sickly, right? And he used to say, I don't want to worry my grandmother, so you can never tell her that I've been getting sick. Now, mind you, the headaches and stomach aches would come and go, but each time that they would happen, it concerned me more and more and more. He would fight me every step of the way. I'm not going to the hospital. I don't want to create any extra medical bills because I don't have the finances already. I'm barely making it, as is. These are his words, right? Financially, I just don't need to take on another bill. So he told me, like, you have to promise me that you are never going to tell my grandmother that, that I've been getting these headaches. And you must never tell her that I've been getting these stomach aches. So now I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm confused. I love this man. I want to help him. But then I'm walking a thin line because he's asking me to keep a secret that I don't know if it is detrimental to his health or not. Um, I don't know if I need to push him out of the way and run to Miss Mary's bedroom and just scream, help, help me with him. There were so many emotions back then. But my 18, 19-year-old self just chose to respect his wishes, even though it was hurting me not to tell his grandmother, his parent, his caregiver. Even though he was technically an adult, she was still his parent, right? Um, so that's pertinent. So he would tell me to never tell my grandmother. There were so many times when I would come to their house and he would let me in the apartment and I would like peep over his shoulder a little bit, because you remember when you entered the door, Miss Mary's bedroom was right across from the doorway. So normally you could see her and she could see who's entering the apartment. And sometimes I would kind of throw my eyes over his shoulder and look at Miss Mary like, help me, help. But she never really picked up the subliminal signal I was trying to send her. So once he kind of had that conversation with me, I noticed that the way in which he would let me into the house was a lot different. He would kind of try to block me from making eye contact with her. Whenever she and I would talk, he would kind of always be present to a certain extent, versus it wasn't always like that, because he was trying to keep me from telling her, because he was afraid one day I would probably break and tell her, right? So that's one thing that's important to the relationship. We had hit a pinnacle in the relationship where he would start telling me randomly, my grandma really likes you, right? And I was like, okay, that's good, because I was definitely afraid of his granny. But I loved her as well, but I was scared of her. And he would always say, my granny really like you. And he would always follow it up by saying, and my grandmother don't like nobody. He used to always tell me that, so we would laugh. I want to tell you this. This is really important to our relationship as well. When he would have those times that he would get sick and him swearing me to secrecy, and I carried that secret all the way until today. Sometimes we carry secrets for people that we love, but it also holds us at bay. So now that he's gone on to heaven, now I can free myself of that secret publicly. When he would get sick like that, he started having these conversations with me. And we've had many conversations about all kinds of things. Like, we would have some deep conversations. He started to have these conversations with me about death. Every now and again, he'd just out of the blue say something like, Stakina, I'm not going to live forever, right? So now I'm experiencing him having these headaches and stomach aches. You don't want me to tell your grandmother, and now you're telling me randomly that you're not going to live forever? So in my head, I'm like, okay, but you're like 22 years old. You're young. Like, what are we talking about? And I used to always think to myself, like, why is he always talking to me about death? Like, does he know something I don't know and he doesn't want to tell me? Or what is going on, right? I never really got to the gist of that part of him. So, again, randomly, he would just say stuff like, Sakina, I'm not going to live forever. You know that, right? So one day he sits me down and he says, I need to ask you something and I need to tell you something. So I'm bracing myself for the worst and I'm like, what is it, Chucky? And he says, when the time comes, he would always start the conversation by saying that, when the time comes, meaning when I pass away, when the time comes, and then he would pause a little bit and he would say, Kina, don't cry. When the time comes that I pass away, you must not cry. Meaning, he would say, you cannot grieve me so hard. So I would just listen. What do you mean don't grieve you so hard? What do you mean don't cry? So he would say, don't grieve me so hard that you're not focused. Now remember, this is 32, 33 years ago, okay? His main concern back then was about the well-being of his grandmother and the well-being of CJ, his firstborn son. He would say, I need you to be focused because I need you to do something for me when the time comes. First of all, I used to think to myself, why are we even having this conversation like we're super young? Second of all, why are we having this conversation? How did he even know that I would outlive him? This is huge. He would always speak to me 3 decades ago about how he knew that I would outlive him. So he says to me, I need you to, when the time comes, I need you to focus on making sure, these are his exact words, I need you to make sure that my grandma and CJ are straight. That's his exact words. Meaning, when I pass away, I need you to look out for my grandmother and I need you to look out for CJ. Okay. So, of course, I'm going to say okay. But in my 18, 19-year-old mind, I don't really know what I'm saying okay to. I just know that I love this man. I'm dedicated to him. And if he asks me to do something, I'm going to do it. Even if I didn't understand what it really meant. Okay, so I tell him, okay, I'll be there for your granny and I'll be there for CJ. When the time comes that you pass away. I'm going to tell you that there were instances during the time of our relationship that Chucky was like, if you're a spiritual person, if you believe in spirituality, if you believe in angels on earth, if you believe in earth angels, like Chucky was kind of like that person back then. Remember, this is 1991 through 1993 Chucky, okay? He wasn't like any person I'd ever met. There would be times when I would just sit in awe of him and watch him make his music, watch him how he would relate to people, watch him how he would interact with people, including me. There were times when he would go to bed at night and I would just sit sometimes and just watch him as he slept, and always thinking in my mind, like, I wonder what he's thinking right now, right, as he's sleeping. But then also saying to God in that same breath, like, as I'm looking into this man's face as he's sleeping so peacefully, saying to God, like, I thank you, Lord, that you blessed me with this man. He loves me beyond measure, and I love him the same. And how could an 18, 19-year-old kid end up with somebody so wonderful? But I thank you, Lord, that you allowed me to be here, to be there with him. So sometimes he would wake up and he would smile. Sometimes he would laugh when he would see that I'm watching him sleeping. And he would do one of the sweetest things ever. Well, 2 sweet things ever. When he saw that I was watching him, he used to do this. He would take his hand and he would take it very gently and he would rub it down the tops of my eyelids. And that was his nonverbal way of saying, girl, go to sleep. Sometimes it would also be his way of saying, I'm okay, right? Especially if he had like a stomach attack or a headache. It would be his way to say, without talking to me, I'm okay. So I would close my eyes and rest. Whenever we would go to sleep at night, he had this tradition that because his nose is long and my nose is long, he used to always do this thing called Eskimo kisses. And so we would rub our noses together, the tips, And then he would always give me one of the sweetest kisses ever. And that's how we went to bed at night. He was just phenomenal. He was a phenomenal man who had a lot of layers to him. And even though the journey ended on a rough note, even though his life was cut short because he had so many more dreams and endeavors and parts of the world and himself and life that he wanted to conquer, the 54 years that he did have, he lived it to his fullest. I wholeheartedly believe that. So right now, as I'm sitting here making this video, I keep looking off to the heavens, and I'm going to end on this note. I'm going to say that I can see him right now in heaven with house music turned up really loud, and Miss Mary's over in the next room having a prayer meeting with Jesus and the other angels. And I hear her voice saying to him, I remember she had that strong voice like a lion. Chucky, turn that down. She forever stayed telling him, turn that music down because it was so loud. So, Miss Mary, hold on to your baby. Hold on to your baby boy. And when the time comes, and we all get to see him again, a time will be had. I love you, Chucky. That's it. I know I said a lot, but I needed to say those things. I love you, buddy.